My name is Tom Harper. I'm 18 and I live in New York with my mom and her husband, Jeffrey. My mom often worked late, and Jeffrey, being a taxi driver, had unpredictable hours. We weren't particularly close, but we got along. He was the kind of person you could talk to about baseball or ask how to change the oil in a car, but nothing deeper than that. A few weeks ago, things started to feel different. At first, it was small things. His gaze lingered on me longer than usual. I caught him paying extra attention when I spoke, even though he was usually more interested in his phone or the TV. Then came unexpected gifts. He bought me expensive headphones, though I never asked for them. Just because, he said. I was surprised but accepted them. Then there were other gestures. He started making me breakfast, leaving me small amounts of cash for lunch, offering to drive me anywhere, even if it was out of his way. None of these things were alarming on their own, but something about them unsettled me. One evening after coming home from practice, I found an envelope under my bedroom door. I picked it up, unfolded the note, and read the words. You are special. Every time I see you smile, it makes my heart stop. I've admired you for a long time, but have been too afraid to say it. I hope one day you understand. At the bottom was a lipstick mark. My stomach turned. I looked around the apartment. It was empty. My mom was away on a business trip, and the only person who could have been home was Jeffrey. But the thought that it was him seemed absurd. It had to be a prank. Maybe one of my friends had slipped it in through the window or the door. But as the days passed, strange things continued to happen. One night, I woke up to the sound of a soft creak. In the darkness, I saw a faint shadow by my door, as if someone had been standing there, watching. I held my breath, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. But when I turned on my nightlight, the hallway was empty. My heart pounded. From that night on, I started locking my door. Then I found something that made my skin crawl. While reaching for a book on my shelf, I accidentally knocked over a small hidden camera. It was positioned between the books, its lens pointed directly at my bed. I picked it up, my hands shaking. Someone had been recording. My stomach tightened as I tried to make sense of it. Who put this here? Should I tell my mom? A deep instinct told me she had no idea. The next day, I decided to set a trap. I placed the camera back where I found it, but adjusted its angle. If someone was monitoring me, they would surely fix it. And they did. When I came home from school, the camera had been moved back to its original position. A chill ran down my spine. I needed answers. Late that night, when the apartment was silent, I sneaked into the living room and grabbed Jeffrey's phone. My fingers trembled as I opened his photo gallery. My breath caught in my throat. There were pictures of my room, of me, sleeping, reading. The walls closed in around me. My pulse raced. This wasn't a prank. It had been him all along. I stepped back, my heart hammering against my ribs. At that moment, I heard footsteps behind me. Tom, he said softly. I turned sharply. Jeffrey stood in the doorway, watching me. Were you going through my phone? I couldn't answer. I could barely breathe. He sighed and sat down on the couch. We need to talk. About what? My voice came out hoarse. He rubbed his temples, exhaling deeply. About the truth. I stood frozen. I've spent my whole life pretending to be someone I'm not, he continued. I try to be what everyone expected, but I can't lie to myself anymore. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I knew where this was going. My entire body tensed. I've decided to stop pretending, he said finally. I'm leaving. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. What? I can't live in this house anymore. I need to be myself, That same night, he packed his bags and left. My mom returned a few days later and found a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry, I can't pretend anymore." She tried calling him, but he didn't answer. A week passed. I still couldn't wrap my head around what had happened. And then, he showed up. I was walking out of school when I saw him standing by the gate, holding a bouquet of flowers. He looked different. He was wearing bright clothes, his face carefully groomed, his posture confident, yet uncertain. He looked like someone who had finally decided to be who they truly were. I stopped in my tracks. People around me started whispering, staring. I didn't walk up to him. I turned around and left, but I knew this wasn't over yet. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying the image of Jeffrey standing outside my school, the bouquet in his hands, the look on his face, hopeful, desperate, determined. What did he expect? That I'd run into his arms? That I'd forget everything he had done? The invasion of privacy, the lingering stares, the hidden camera? The next day, I avoided the school gates and took the back exit, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow felt like his. Every figure in the crowd made my pulse spike. When I got home, I double-checked the locks on the doors and windows, but paranoia had already settled deep in my bones. Then the messages started. At first, they were simple. "I miss our talks. I was always so proud of you. I hope we can meet soon, just to talk." I ignored them, left them on read, but that didn't stop him. He sent emails, voicemails, handwritten letters shoved under our apartment door. In one of them, he wrote, "I know you're scared. I understand. But I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to be seen, Tom. Truly seen. You were the only person who ever made me feel alive." I couldn't take it anymore. I finally told my mom. She went pale as I spoke, her hands shaking as she clutched the edge of the kitchen counter. When I showed her the messages, the photos I had found, she covered her mouth, eyes welling up with tears. She swallowed hard. "I never saw it. I never thought." She didn't finish the sentence. The next morning, she went straight to the police. They took our statements, but since Jeffrey hadn't directly threatened me, all they could do was file a report. They suggested a restraining order, but I knew that wouldn't stop him if he really wanted to find me. And he did. A week later, I came home to find the apartment door slightly open. I froze. I knew my mom wouldn't leave it like that. Slowly, I pushed the door open, my heart hammering in my chest. The apartment was dark, except for the faint glow of the living room lamp. My breath caught when I saw the flowers on the coffee table. The same kind he had brought to my school. Then I heard it. A soft shuffle. I turned sharply. Jeffrey stood in the hallway, half hidden in the shadows. "Tom," he said quietly. "Please, just listen." I backed away toward the door, but he stepped forward, his expression pleading. "I know I scared you. I didn't mean to," he said. "I was lost. My whole life I was lost. But you made me feel like I wasn't invisible. You made me realize who I really was. I felt sick. You don't understand," he continued, his voice breaking. "I love you." Something inside me snapped. "Stop," I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were trembling. "Just stop." His face twisted with pain. "Tom, get out." He hesitated, his eyes filled with something desperate and broken. And then my mom's voice cut through the silence. "What the hell are you doing here?" she demanded. She stood at the doorway, her face white with rage, phone in hand. Jeffrey's face crumpled. He took a step back. "I just needed to talk to him," he murmured. "Get out," she screamed, "or I swear to God, I will call the police right now." For the first time, I saw fear flicker across his face. He hesitated for just a second longer before turning and walking out. My mom slammed the door behind him and locked it. That night, she called the police again. This time, they took it seriously. A restraining order was issued immediately. But it wasn't over. A few days later, I received a final message from an unknown number. I understand now. You don't see me the way I see you. I accept that. I just hope one day you'll forgive me. I'll leave you alone. I promise. But I'll always carry you in my heart. And then, just like that, he disappeared. Weeks passed, no messages, no sightings. It was like he had vanished from existence. But the damage was done. I stopped sleeping with my door unlocked. I double-checked the locks every night. I flinched at unexpected touches. I didn't trust smiles anymore. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I would wake up with the suffocating fear that I wasn't alone. That there was someone in the shadows, watching. I didn't know if that fear would ever go away.